Hi, welcome. Hope you have a wonderful time. In the near future, sinkholes begin to appear all over the world, causing explosions that send the community into a state of panic. Huge monsters known as reapers emerge from these holes and hunt down humans to kill them. Bullets do not hurt them, so even the military cannot save the community. Eventually, people living at high altitudes report that the reapers freeze at 8,000 feet, so the survivors begin moving to higher ground to start a new life. 3 years later in Colorado, Hunter lives in a small community in the Rocky Mountains. One day, he decides to cross the 8,000-foot safety line, curious to see what lies on the other side. He barely manages to take a few steps before he encounters a reaper, so Hunter starts running back. The reaper almost catches him, but he manages to cross the line in time. Afterwards, Hunter returns home to the Lost Gulch shelter, where 193 survivors live. His father, Will, scolds him for crossing the safety line, reminding him of the reapers but also of Hunter's lung problems. Hunter explains that he just wanted to find more people, so Will points out that he couldn't lose him like he lost his wife. Later, Will goes hunting with Katie and shares what happened. Katie understands his concerns but also points out that Hunter is the only child in their community, so it's natural for him to want to find friends to play with. However, Will explains that Hunter is just trying to get to the last place he saw his mother. Meanwhile, scientist Nina is experimenting with bullets and tests them by shooting them at a piece of reaper hide, but they still don't do any damage. That night, Will hears Nina still firing and is upset when he remembers the time his wife left with her on the special mission that killed her. He suddenly hears Hunter coughing and rushes to the boys' room to change the filter on the machine that helps him breathe. Hunter quickly calms down and is able to sleep again, but that was the last filter in the house. Will stares at some maps, wondering how hard it is to get past the line to find more filters. On Hunter's birthday, Will manages to get the last box of macaroni and cheese in the community to give to his son as a gift. While they cook, Hunter wonders why they don't use radios anymore. Will explains that they need to save electricity, so they use flags to communicate with other shelters. Hunter thinks this is sad because talking to people is important. That night, Hunter starts coughing again and Will has no choice but to give him an injection. After Hunter falls asleep again, Will goes to see Nina to tell her that he is leaving for Boulder in the morning to find filters for his son. He claims to have found a safe route, but Nina doesn't believe him because she has memorized the area. It turns out that her old lab is in Boulder. Will wants her to come with him because she has studied the reapers for years and survived their last trip. However, Nina points out that she was just lucky and that Will's wife died during that trip. Refusing to give up, Will tells her about his journey going through the mountains. However, Nina thinks that is worse because the reapers could trap them there, and she still refuses to go. After Will leaves, Nina works on adjusting the compass but can't stop thinking about Will's wife's death, leaving her in tears. Meanwhile, Will asks a neighbor to take care of Hunter before he goes to the gun store to get a set of weapons. Katie shows up and announces that she will go with him, ignoring his protests. Nina also gives in and agrees to come along while mocking Katie for being inexperienced and being a burden. Will says goodbye to Hunter and promises to be back, but the boy points out that his mother said the same thing. The trio eventually leaves and Nina continues to be rude to Katie, so Will tells her to behave. Nina then explains that the reapers emit a high-energy electromagnetic pulse, and her modified compass can detect them when they are within a half-mile range. After a long walk, they find a fire road in Elba and the 8,000-foot line. Once the compass confirms that there are no monsters nearby, the trio crosses the line and begins descending. Moments later, they find some abandoned trucks and search them for supplies. They obtain some flares, ammo, and even a grenade launcher that Katie knows how to use. Nina also finds a reaper scale and takes some time to collect a sample. When Katie tries to rush her, an argument ensues and Nina accuses her of trying to get into Will's pants. An enraged Katie pushes her against a truck and reminds her that Nina killed Katie's best friend, referring to Will's wife. The women begin punching each other, and Will must separate them before it gets any worse. The group continues traveling and are surprised to find a group of horses in the woods, implying that the reapers are only attacking humans for some reason. They eventually reach the Alta Vista ski area, where they plan to use the ski lift to travel to the mines safely. At that moment, Nina's compass indicates a monster is nearby, and they see something shaking the trees in the forest. Will immediately climbs to the top of the lift and begins working on activating the backup generators while the women stay on the ground to provide cover. Katie panics when she sees the monster approaching and launches a few grenades, causing some explosions but causing no damage to the Reaper at all. Will finishes connecting the generator and Nina presses the switch before climbing onto a chair, where Will immediately joins her. They open fire on the Reaper as it approaches while Katie begins to climb the tower to reach the chairs as well. The monster jumps onto the cables and makes the chairs shake, but the duo manages to hold on. Katie waits for the right moment to jump but unfortunately misses the chair, so Will has to catch up to her in midair. Nina runs out of bullets before the monster makes the cables shake again, causing the three to fall to the ground. They immediately start running and manage to cross the line to the 8,000-foot area before the monster can catch them. Since it is getting dark, the trio decide to stay at the ski resort for the night. While sharing a drink, Nina points out that when the Reapers first appeared, they killed 95% of the world's population without stopping to eat or sleep. Predators kill for food, but Reapers kill humans for fun and do not attack other animals. This makes her wonder if they were sent specifically to eliminate humanity. After the women fell asleep, Will again remembered the last conversation he had with his wife, who had truly trusted Nina's skills in finding a way to kill the Reapers. The next day, the group finally reaches the mine they used to work in. He explains that both ends of the tunnel are above 8,000 feet, but the lower levels are below the safety line, which is not well received. The tunnels are not properly sealed for the creatures to find, not to mention that Nina's compass won't work underground. They've made it that far, so Nina and Kitty have no choice but to continue following Will. The trio dons construction helmets for light, enters the tunnels and spends a few hours walking in silence. Unfortunately, they are forced to stop when they discover that the main tunnel has been sealed due to a collapse. Will announces that they will have to go down to level 7, which means they will have to walk 1,000 yards below the line. After being startled by some bats, the trio climbs the stairs and enters the new tunnel, walking as fast as they can to avoid trouble. Suddenly, they hear a noise and cover the lights on their helmets, but it's too late. There is a Reaper in the tunnel and has already seen them. The group immediately starts running as Katie accidentally fires a grenade, hoping to slow down the monster. The abandoned machinery also blocks the Reaper from behind and Will opens fire, but to no avail. When they find a hole in the wall, the trio runs inside and Will shoots at the rocks to make room for the three of them to hide. The Reaper sticks its glowing tail inside the hole, so Will fires a flare to distract it. The light reveals a way out in the opposite wall, so they push away some rocks to crawl through to escape. Will finally makes his move and has to dodge the Reaper's tail before following his friends. After crawling for a few minutes, Katie emerges into another tunnel, only to be found by a Reaper who promptly stabs her with its tail. Will tries to reach her, but is not fast enough and has to watch as the monster takes her away. At that moment, Nina finds a ladder, so she and Will immediately climb up as they hear a Reaper behind them. Luckily, they find the door and exit the mine, reaching a safe height just in time. Nina and Will continue their journey, stopping for nothing except to pet a goat. When it gets dark, they find an abandoned house and break in for the night. There are some boxes of macaroni and cheese, and they eat it for dinner while Will shares that it is Hunter's favorite food. Nina asks what is in the old lab, so she explains that she may have found a chemical that could help the bullets finally destroy the monsters. She theorizes that the Reaper's scales are electrically charged, so the right bullet could cause internal combustion. Will thinks it sounds like an incredible magic bullet and can't believe his wife died because of a weak theory. The next day, they take the truck from the house and use it to cross the line as fast as they can, passing through a town that has been taken over by animals. Eventually, they arrive at a hospital and search for the filters while hearing some strange noises, but the compass doesn't alert them to anything. They have to go to the top floor to finally find the filters, then they start running to escape. Suddenly, a Reaper breaks through a wall, and the duo have to move quickly to avoid those massive claws. They still bump into a bunch of furniture on their way out and get hit by falling debris every time a Reaper destroys a wall or window. Suddenly, the monster's tail reaches through the wall and grabs Will, so Nina grabs her fire axe and hits the tail with it until the monster lets go of her friend. Nina then opens a gas canister to fill the hallways with mist, hoping it will provide some cover. This gives Will an idea, so he waits until the Reaper gets close enough and shoots a set of oxygen tanks. This causes an explosion that sends the monster flying through a window. The creature is no longer moving, but they can't be sure if it's dead or unconscious, so they need to hurry. Will wants to go back, but Nina convinces him to help her get to the lab so she can finish her bullets. After the duo leave in the truck, the Reaper wakes up. Moments later, they arrive at the lab and Nina begins mixing chemicals while Will watches. At one of the desks, he is shocked by a photo that reveals that Nina had a family she never talked about. Nina cries as she explains that she was working the day the world ended and couldn't be with her family. She feels extremely guilty because her son had a soccer game that day, and she chose not to go. Nina also admits that she hates herself for causing Will's wife's death, but Will assures her that it was no one's fault. When Nina finally finishes her bullet, she tests it on the skin and nothing happens. She tells Will to go back to his son, but she stays to continue the experiment until she finds a solution or kills the Reaper. Will leaves his truck while Nina tries another combination of bullets, but it doesn't work either. She is too distracted to notice the reaction of her compass. At that moment, she hears some noise but also realizes that there is a certain chemical combination that she hasn't tried, so she rushes to mix it up as her last hope. Meanwhile, the truck accidentally blows a tire and loses control until it falls on its side. Will loses consciousness for a few moments but wakes up when he hears the sound of a monster coming. He has to kick out the window of the truck to get out and starts running while the Reaper chases after him. The climb up the hill is hard on his body after the impact, and by the time he is about to cross the safe line, a second Reaper is blocking the way. Will opens fire desperately to no avail and loses hope, but at that moment, Nina appears and fires her new bullets. A strange explosion filled with smoke and electricity occurs, confirming her theory. Nina quickly shoots all the Soul Reapers, killing them in seconds even as they try to escape. She then picks up a piece of the Soul Reaper's body and shows Will the mechanical parts, confirming that these monsters are robots programmed to kill humans. When Will asks who sent them, Nina assumes they are aliens. Later, when the duo returns to their shelter, Will reunites with Hunter and Nina raises the pirate flag to announce that she has discovered a way to fight back. The survivors quickly gather to build tons of special bullets, and Will finally uses the radio again to send a message of hope far and wide. Nina also keeps the bodies of the monsters to continue her study. Once everyone is armed, the survivors enter the forest and kill as many as they can to reclaim Earth. One night, Will and Nina look up at the sky with a telescope and notice 3 mysterious lights approaching Earth. Thank you for being with us this far.